NFR.
NFR Extra is a podcast dedicated to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo and features icons and personalities that embody the Western lifestyle.
The Miss Rodeo America Pageant, I would love to watch like a grown man go through it, because I walked into it knowing it would be tough, but like mentally it is so tolling going. You have like 14 or 15 hour days for 8 days long, trying to present your best self so that 4 people can judge you. The last night before the coronation, before the big reveal, you're sequestered from your family. You don't see them all week long. You don't have your phones, but you get one opportunity to talk to your family that week. And so I saw my family and I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, shoot me straight. You think I have a shot?" And I was expecting like, "Yes, honey, you're doing so good. Your speech is awesome." She was like, "Man, I don't know." And so from that point forward, I was like, that's it. This is the end of the line for me. Thank you, Mom.
Hey, everybody, this is Steve Godert, and you're listening to the NFR Extra.
Speaking of conversing and liking to do it, Miss Rodeo America, how are you doing today?
Oh, just dandy.
Dandy like a lion.
Dandy like a lion.
Roar. Kennadee Riggs.
This is stretching too far.
MRA. How is it for your title of being Miss Rodeo America? Is it everything that you thought it would be? Is it less? Is it more? Is it worth it? Is it not?
All of the above. It's more than I thought in every way possible, and so beyond worth it. And I'm just barely starting to get a tiny glimpse of that. I mean, like, with this job, I mean, it's similar to other startup jobs, but it is so unique in that this 1 year I will feed off of it for the rest of my life. I have connections now and friendships that I will always be able to benefit from and serve people through. So very, very thankful, to say the least.
What has been the one thing that you were not anticipating that you've got to experience?
You know what? I was not anticipating to be homesick. And I've spent time away from home. I lived out of the country. And so I knew what that felt like, but I didn't think that I would feel a little bit homesick being gone. And I say that I really feel at home no matter where I go in the rodeo world, because it's a family, right? But I'm more homesick for my little brothers, who I miss so much. I didn't realize how close we were. And Arizona, which that's my home state. And I didn't realize how much I loved it until now. So it's given me a little bit more appreciation.
We're in Vegas. It's very similar to Arizona.
The weather, for sure. The environment,
Not so much.
not so much.
How old are your little brothers?
I'm actually the oldest of 6. So I've got a sister that's 16, and then I've got a brother that's 20, a 14-year-old, 12-year-old, and 10-year-old. They are rowdy, too. My poor mom, like, all those boys in a row, there's holes in the wall, paintings everywhere that are unintentional.
How many was that you said?
4 boys and 2 girls.
Okay. That's a lot. That's a family.
It's a family. My mom for sure is familiar with people at the hospital. Let's just say that. They know us by name, so.
Is our room ready? We're here. Thank you.
I'm over here thinking, like, okay, you have a child that's Miss Rodeo America. Like, that's got to be a lot. Nope. Definitely probably not a lot.
It's the least of her worries.
Right.
I think she's more like, oh, good, one of my children's on her own. One less kid to feed under my roof right now.
Yeah.
So, no, but it's been so much fun. And I think it's really fun because having my little brothers, they're, of course, rodeo fanatics. They're steer riders, and one's an aspiring steer wrestler. And so they think this is the coolest thing in the world. So it's the first time in my life that my little brothers appreciate me. They're like, okay, she's going to see Stetson Wright this week. Let's give her flowers, write her notes. You know, what can she do for us?
Stetson Wright is like the rodeo version of a boy band. He is like,
yes, like One Direction, but
he gets like the guys and the girls. Like,
No, I mean,
it's true.
Your son locked up. He was like,
he's like, I want to meet him. I'm like, there he is. Go shake his hand. He's like,
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Huh?
How did you get into the rodeo queen side of things?
Man, it's
is
different.
it called something? Is it queening or like what?
You know,
is it,
how did you get into rodeo queen?
Queenery? Is it
Queenery? I like that one. That's a new one.
the kingdom?
Yeah, the kingdom. It's definitely a little niche. We could call it a cult, but it's not. But it's different from girl to girl. In my case, it's a family legacy. So my great grandmother was the Reno Rodeo Queen in 1950, and then I'm not gonna be the handiest breakaway roper in the world. So I thought my talents and gifts lie in this area. So I pursued it just like my aunts and my mom did, and here I am.
Aunts and your mom.
And my grandma and my great grandma.
So prior to your accomplishment as Miss Rodeo America, was grandma at Miss Reno Rodeo, was that probably the top accolade for the ladies?
Oh, at the time, I'd say probably so. Like with the old timer rodeos, like the Pendleton Roundup and Reno Rodeo, like those were the only rodeo queens around. So
right.
That was definitely very prestigious at the time. It still is. But yeah, fast forward all this time, I get to wear her clothes, and it just makes me feel closer to her anyways, too.
That's so cool.
It's really neat for me.
Who stored all those all this time?
Oh, you guys, there's a room at an undisclosed location in Arizona. And this room is stacked to the brim with family heirloom clothes, which I'm so lucky because Western clothing's not cheap, you know?
Yeah.
And I get to whip out my vintage Justin boots that my great grandma designed. Like, it is a flex and a half. So I'm very thankful.
How about like that shirt? Because that's a pretty punchy old school looking shirt.
This is my grandma's.
Yeah,
Is it really?
So cool.
It is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But there's an art to it. She taught us like the way that you have to get them dry cleaned in a special way, stored in a cool, dry place so that the colors don't fade and the rhinestones don't unset. So there's a lot more to it you'd think, but
They're like gremlins. There's a lot of stuff that comes with them.
yes.
And if you don't,
Yeah, and you
gotta
be careful with the side effects too.
You could
apart.
say that, yes.
If you wear this shirt for more than 12 hours,
yeah, don't you dare do it.
It's painful.
Warm water? Have you lost your mind?
So you said you've lived out of the country. Where else have you lived?
Yes. So I lived in Brazil for a time. I have some family ties and connections down there. I kind of grew up around the culture. But, and then the time came when I was old enough for my church to serve at mission. So I submitted my application. And in this case, this is one of my favorite stories ever that's totally played into Miss Rodeo America too. You don't get to choose where you go for your mission. And it's a year and a half long for girls. So I prayed my booty off that I could go to Brazil. And I was like, there's no way. I'm going to go to Yuma or something, you know? No. Time came, I got my call, my assignment, and it was to the exact place that I wanted to go in the Amazon.
No way.
And so that was one of the first times in my young life where I really felt so strongly like that was my testimony growing right there. Like I knew God knew me and he heard my prayers. So I went and I lived on the Amazon and can't even tell you like how crazy of an experience that was.
But you need to try.
Yes. Seriously, like anywhere outside of the country, if anybody can have the opportunity to go, do it because your perspective on life deepens, you appreciate things more, and you just take a new look on life. So
did you know Portuguese before you went down there, or you learned it?
So a little bit. So I grew up around the culture. Like I said, my dad would speak to me when I was little. We'd listen to the music, but I wasn't fluent. And so at the beginning of my mission, they sent me down to a big city in Brazil for 6 weeks to learn. And so after that, they threw you into the deep end, and then you become fluent by immersion, being around people. So, and now I get to use that in rodeo. So it's so handy.
That's awesome.
We're not leaving this Amazon deal. So what was, I mean, give us just a layout of like, so you have the big city first, but then where did you go to? Like, are we thinking deep in the jungle type stuff?
Yes. So the travel plan for me to get to where I was assigned to, it was called Oriximiná, and it's this little town/village on the river. So I start off in that big city. I take a 6-hour plane ride up to the north, and there's one big city up in the north, and it's an Amazon port city. So it's pretty well developed. And then I take a 1-hour plane ride from there to a more remote area, and then a 12-hour boat ride on the Amazon River overnight to get to my little town.
What's the boat look? I mean, what kind of a boat?
It's like a
Little
ferry.
boat?
So
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
like,
Yeah,
they've definitely sunk. They're not super
Okay.
Didn't tell my mom until I came home about those deals, but you can watch River Monsters. They've told stories about it.
Okay.
And so, but it's fun because you can sleep on a hammock. Everybody brings hammocks and hangs them up, and you sleep on the ferry underneath the stars on the Amazon River. It's like nothing can beat that.
Are the mosquitoes bad?
I was going to say, how big are
Mosquitoes
the
are bad.
bugs there?
Mosquitoes are bad. I'd say what's worse is water. Like there's no safe water there. So you have a filter in your water bottle and you only drink out of that. And the one time I didn't use that was one of my biggest regrets of my life. So, yeah, quite an experience.
What about food?
Man, down there it's pretty, it's an impoverished area where I was living at. So it's more beans and rice than anything. And basically if you imagine Mexican food without the spice and flavor, it's that. It's like bland Mexican food. But one thing that actually is specific to that area where I lived, it's the only place in the world where acai plants grow. So if you ever had acai like a bowl or something, that's the Americanized version. It's really like tasteless. It comes out smooth like an avocado, and people will put salt in it and eat it with fish, or they mix it with sugar and sweet condensed milk. And so it's really different there, but that's their staple commodity down there.
They also have something called corn juice.
Yes, we learned this yesterday from Junior.
It's corn liquor.
It's not. It's literally like blended corn and water.
And
This is a thing.
Junior Noguera is like a big advocate for it.
Yeah,
apparently.
he said you have to stop at the little gas stations on the small town
And get
road.
Doesn't that
corn
sound
balls.
promising?
Is that like the American version of a hot dog at a gas station?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
So sick.
Is it trustworthy?
Gas station sushi.
That's the
Ugh.
sushi part. So a year and a half on the mission.
Yes.
And you were 18 when you went there?
I
or
was
how-
19. Yeah, so I graduated high school, turned 19, and then left. So it was
All right.
3 months after I graduated.
Okay. And then so you come back, and obvious choice is now rodeo queendom.
Well, it wasn't quite an obvious choice at the time, actually. I knew I wanted to run for Miss Rodeo Arizona because it was my family legacy. And I felt strongly that I should do that, but I also really wanted to cheer in college. That was my main thing out of high school I wanted to do. And I chose the mission instead. So I was like, when I come back, I'll just do that. But then I ended up putting it off again because I had a strong feeling to do this. And so ran for Miss Rodeo Arizona. And usually you have to prepare for a long time for that. Studying, you got to know the PRCA rule book like the back of your hand. I was not ready, but Lord helped me. And I walked away with that crown. Had an extension of my mission, it seemed. Such a cool experience as Miss Rodeo Arizona, and then came to win Miss Rodeo America, which I did not think would happen. So it's been very full circle. Still haven't cheered in college, but way worth it, if you ask me.
Is cheering in college something that we're still wanting to do?
Yes, but, time's ticking. I don't know if I've ever met a 24-year-old college cheerleader, but to be honest, because of how big of a dream it is, I would not say that's too unlikely that I'll still pursue it.
Where would you want to go to school?
Well, Arizona State is my family's school, so we're not fair weather fans. We've been through it all with them, and we've
Okay.
had season tickets for a long time, so that would be where I'd want to be.
Okay. What would you want to study?
I'm online. I'm kind of on pause now, but I'm studying journalism. When I was a little girl, I loved sports with all my brothers, so I wanted to do ESPN sports broadcasting, and obviously now the rodeo world has way more opportunities for that too, so that's probably what I'll end up pursuing.
Let's take a quick pause, and we'll be right back. Looking to rope in some news and features you can't find anywhere else? Then look no further than the series of blogs at nfrexperience.com. You'll find customized content from experts in all things rodeo and Las Vegas. There's the NFR Insider, the Mental Game and One-on-One with Susan Canode, Hurley's Hotspots and Gold Buckle Buzz with Brian Hurlbert, NFR Experience with Patrick Everson, and the Junior World Finals with Jack Nowlin. There's something for all rodeo fans. Check it out at nfrexperience.com, because legacies and memories are made in Vegas.
Tell me about what it was like once you got to Las Vegas, like going through the competition of Miss Rodeo America.
Oh, you guys, there are no words. The Miss Rodeo America pageant, I would love to watch a grown man go through it, because I walked into it knowing it would be tough, but mentally it is so tolling going. You have 14 or 15-hour days for 8 days long, trying to present your best self so that 4 people can judge you. And it's from anything from speaking in front of a big crowd. We do extemporaneous speeches, so they give you a topic and you have to just make a speech on the spot almost, to written tests about PRCA rules and horse science, to horsemanship, riding jump horses. So it's a lot of different things. It was very difficult, but it also was a blast being here in Vegas with all those friends that I spent a whole year with. So there's no way to describe it, but it is extremely difficult, but also extremely fun.
So take us through it from day one. You get here,
Yeah.
what happens?
So day one, you check in at the South Point, which I'm very thankful it's at the South Point. Everything's accessible. We check in, we do an orientation, we meet our judges, and we jump straight into it. So they do something every day where you'll have a speaking opportunity. So we do onstage questions on controversial topics. You'll do your extemporaneous speech. You will have a fashion show, which is a blast, and it's a huge production. I would highly recommend going. And the horsemanship portion is a big, big day. And that's a whole day in itself where they give you 2 different jump mounts from stock contractors, and you perform AQHA-approved patterns for judges. So the whole thing considered, it is good at picking out well-rounded talents, if that makes sense. So every year there's just such a good bunch of girls, it's hard to even choose. And any which way, you'll end up with a good girl.
We typically ask our world champions, was there a point in time, at the NFR that you thought like, hey, I have a chance at this title? Some of them come in leading it, some of them don't. And it's interesting to watch them ride that roller coaster. Do you feel like there was a point in time where you're like, okay, I have a chance, like that went my way? Or was it kind of just like, wow, we're still going through this the whole time?
I think up until the very last moment, I really didn't. I wasn't extremely confident in my own self, but one thing I was super confident in was the fact that I prayed for whatever was supposed to happen. So I knew that was going to come to be. And also for my heritage, like I'm a big believer in angels helping us out. And I've heard cowboys tell stories of like Strand Smith. He had his grandpa die on the way to the NFR one year, and he felt like that helped him. And that's exactly how I felt it was for me. And so it wasn't necessarily that I felt like I had a shot, but the fact that I had extra angels helping me know how to answer things and helping me remember things that I had studied, that was what I did feel confident in. But I will say, the last night before the coronation, before the big reveal, you're sequestered from your family. You don't see them all week long. You don't have your phones. But you get one opportunity to talk to your family that week. And so I saw my family, and I asked my mom, I said, Mom, shoot me straight. You think I have a shot? And I was expecting like, yes, honey, you're doing so good. Your speech is awesome. She was like, man, I don't know. And so from that point forward, I was like, that's it. This is the end of the line for me. Thank you, Mom.
See, I actually love that though, because that's my mom. Like, if anyone's ever met Tammy Bentley, let me tell you, like, she's the most honest person in the world.
She'd
She'd
be
be like,
with chicken fingers.
Yeah.
What
Cane's
does that
chicken.
mean?
Thank you, Lord. Yeah.
they work long days during the NFR. My mom
man.
shows up with
Oh.
food. She's
Yeah.
a saint.
Bless
Nobody
her
understands
heart.
how small like that act of kindness is sometimes during that NFR week. Like, here's food, and you're like, wow, that's the most amazing
That's what
thing
it
I've
looks
ever
like?
seen.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
But parents,
Good.
talk about family and going throughout the, stages of queening in general.
Mhm.
Your mom is a big supporter of this transition, going down the
Absolutely.
road. How has it been throughout this year being gone?
Yeah, one thing I'm very thankful for more than ever is technology, because I FaceTime them often and tell them stories, and they'll catch me up. But I will say one of my favorite experiences so far, of course, my mom is elated. This is totally up her alley. And I feel like she deserves to be wearing the crown and not me for how much she's done for me. But my dad has not always been the biggest fan of, ballet recitals or rodeo queening, which of course his daughter decided to pursue all of those things. So I've dragged him through the dirt, to say the least. And I have watched him become a total rodeo queen dad. Like, he will not admit it, but I saw his facial expressions in the crowd. Like, when we were at the Miss Rodeo America pageant, he was into it. And so it's been fun to watch my dad kind of turn into this supportive figure where he always has supported me, but he secretly is like a big fan of the rodeo queen industry without telling anyone.
I want you to know it's catching on too, because you said queening.
Queening.
Yeah.
That's the word, I guess.
Yeah, she said queening.
Queenery
that.
is a good one too, though.
Queenery is good.
I liked that one.
I think what you just said really goes into the fact, we have 2 dads here, and there's something about a daughter that really just changes the world of what is happening in
And do
their
you guys have
lives.
daughters?
Yep.
Both of you.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I think the other thing too is, I feel with my son, it's my job to teach him how to be a man. Okay. So you're the protector of your household, and it's your job, if you have a family one day, that you need to protect that family. Like, I always joke with my wife, if a hurricane's coming to town, like, you can go stay with your parents because they have a generator and all this nice stuff. I'm protecting our house. But with a daughter, it's like, that's an extension of your wife. Like, I want to protect her,
I
both
love
of the
that.
women in my family even more, because at some point in time, my son has to be able to pick up his torch and go, all right, Dad, I'm going with you, but with the girls, it's like, hey, no, Dad's got this. So that, I think that for me, I mean, I'm not going to speak for Steve, but
Daughters, I have 2 of them. The youngest one is like, it's a weird deal. They take you to a high that you didn't know existed, a low you hoped wasn't there, and they keep you subject to either one of those exchanges at any given time throughout the day, if not multiple times through the day, as they just kind of coast through the middle. But like the daughter thing is true. I mean, obviously, like when you, as a man, when you marry your wife, it's like, I've never loved a woman more than anything in my life. And then your first daughter comes along,
I
it's
hope
like, oh
they
my God,
listen to this.
it's so great. And then like the youngest one comes along and everybody's like, Dad, you're such a, like, obviously she gets whatever she wants. I'm like, yeah, look at her face. I'm not going to say no to that unless knows what she wants to hear.
I think that's
crazy.
like God's way of softening old tough cowboy hearts, is giving them a little girl to raise.
Payback is what it's called.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the sleepless nights that are gonna come down the road.
Yeah.
Well, in a family of 6 too, are you like, what was your, I don't know if like role is the correct question, but for Steve, his little girl is like the Spitfire, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
she is the one that's going to tell you how it is. She's the baby in the family. Like you're the oldest of the family. Like, what do you think your, like, not attitude, but that role was within the 6?
Girl, I'm the free babysitter. That's the best way to describe me. I'm a free labor. And my mom told me the other day, I mean, I'm on the road, so I wasn't there on Mother's Day, but I FaceTimed her and I was like, Mom, did anyone make you breakfast today? How was it? She's like, we are feeling your absence. You are the only thoughtful child in this house. And I was like, finally, retribution. Everybody in this house is feeling my absence. They remember me for what I was. But no, sincerely, like being the oldest of that many kids, I feel like I'm a second mother, but it's good because now I feel a little bit more confident in the fact that I can be a mom one day myself too, even in a crazy world. So
Yeah.
it's good.
So what is your family into? Like, what do they do back in Arizona?
We definitely are a sports family. Of course, we've come from the rodeo world too, but my little brothers are sports fanatics. And we love the outdoors. So one thing growing up, my dad always took us to do was snow skiing. So that's another one of my favorite things to do. And then we have great lakes in Arizona. So lake sports like wake surfing and wakeboarding.
Okay. This is something I'm always interested in because Estes Park, they always have a lot of queens at that rodeo. So how long does it take from, all right, I have an appointment at 11. So when does Miss Rodeo America have to start preparing for that 11 o'clock appointment?
If you asked me a year ago, it'd be a lot longer. Luckily, if practice makes perfect, I've got it down. But right now, I usually will start getting ready 2 hours before I need to leave. And that gives me time. I like to listen to music, stop and take a snack. So if I'm rushed, I can do it in an hour. But if I'm wanting perfect wings that day, you know how it goes. 2 hours is key.
You have no extensions.
No extensions.
See, really?
As my wife, I can point out to her, I'm like, her extensions look really good.
See,
that was the first thing when you took your hat off. When you took your hat off, I was like, wow, she's got a great head of hair.
I noticed it as well.
But
yeah, insane. Because I've seen the ones where they have the
the clip-ins, huh?
No, I know. But that's the one thing that my wife and I always joke about. And I'm like, all right, is her hair real or fake? And she can
right now.
I mean, because
I can spot it out.
You are well seasoned. That's impressive.
I got the deal.
Just wait till you meet his wife. You'll understand. She's beautiful.
She's all right. They're not all first round picks.
Yeah, speaking of sports, he has outkicked his coverage big time.
Both of you did.
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So what, possibly college, possibly cheer. Is there anything that has really, the journalist thing with rodeo?
Yes.
So that's kind of the broad general direction that we want to go.
Yeah, and I think that I'm gaining a lot clearer perspective throughout this year of what I want to do. But anything journalism-wise I would love to do, and I would love to use my Portuguese. And I'm really excited that the Cowboy Channel and the PRCA have been linking arms with Brazil a ton.
Oh, yeah.
Brazil has their own version of the PRCA. It's called the LNR. And actually, last year as Miss Rodeo Arizona, I went down to it's technically the biggest rodeo in the world. So Houston claims it, but this is the biggest. And it's called Barretos. That's where the big Brazilian cowboys come from. So I went down with my parents. We visited our people that we lived with. It was a great sentimental trip. Well, now I get to go back this year, but this time there are a lot of extra connections. And I know the Cowboy Channel is going to be streaming Brazilian rodeos. They need commentators. So just things of that sort. The AQHA is huge down there too. A lot of our great horses come from Brazil. So something in that field. I would love to use my Portuguese, but stay in the Western industry.
So does it take some time to kind of get back into it? Or as Junior walks up, you could just strike up a Portuguese conversation?
Junior, Follow me, amigo.
Yeah, she's fluent.
You know what, though? Junior was saying this the other day. He just came back from Brazil, and he's trying to click back into English mode. That's totally how it is. And so when I'm in English mode, it's hard for me to click back in. But one thing I love is Brazilian music, and listening to that actually helps me a ton. So I'll click into Portuguese mode if I need to, but it's hard to switch back and forth.
Well, regardless, this has been an absolute pleasure. And congratulations again on your
Thank
title.
you.
And thank you for hanging out with us here in Vegas.
Oh, thanks, you guys. Y'all are the best. We'll see you at the NFR.
Want to experience more of the NFR? Then visit NFRexperience.com. And we invite you to subscribe to NFR Extra on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you're listening right now. If you like what you've heard on NFR Extra, we would love it if you gave us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe.